Thank you, Deputy Speaker, sir. First of all, I really, from my heart, welcome the government decision to block this transaction, which I've questioned very much at the August 6th sitting, with the help of information from many well-informed Singaporeans like Mr. Tan Swee Chee. It is a big relief to NTUC policyholders, which I'm one also. The Minister today, in announcing the turnaround of the government's position, because what we heard on August the 6th is actually very different. However, from what the Minister has said, it seems that all the processes are proper. So it begs the question, my first question is, who in the government, in such big transaction, financial transaction, will be the final goalkeeper? Who is the one who will finally look at the outcome of the deal or any policy decisions and not just the processes? You know, it seems that NE has gone through the right process. MAS has also done the first round of assessment, and the case was presented to the Parliament on August the 6th. And we were debating, we were asking questions in a different direction. We are trying to say at that sitting that, hey, this transaction needs to be reconsidered. But of course, the Minister and the MOS at that time has given us very different impression. So my first question is, in the future, when we have big financial transactions like this, can we get the assurance from the government that there will be someone? In this case, we are happy the MCCY acted as a goalkeeper to look at the outcome of this transaction. So in the future, can I get assurance who is going to do this goalkeeper role? The second question I have is, what Minister Chee had mentioned just now is that part of MAS responsibility is to assess the deal in the interest of policyholders. If the deal involves the acquirer extracting capital from the entity, can this fit into the criteria that it will be in the interest of the policyholders? If it does not, then is it that MAS have not done its job? I'd like to have an answer to that.
So I think there are two questions. If I'm not mistaken, one is directed at Minister Tong and the other directed at Minister Chee. So who would like to go first? Minister Chee?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I think Mr. Leong, the way he has described what MAS colleagues have done is not accurate, and I think it's not fair. I've explained earlier in my reply to Ms. Pereira that MAS will look at the proposal from a prudential point of view. That is MAS's role as the prudential regulator for the insurance industry. So when the MAS team looks at that, they, at that point in time, were not privy to the details of the exemption of MCCY's exemption under Section 88. I had explained that earlier in my reply to Ms. Pereira. So from the MAS team's point of view, this is a proposal. They were assessing it from a prudential point of view, and they looked at, after the proposed capital reduction, would income still be able to meet its necessary capital adequacy ratio? And if so, then from a prudential point of view, there is no reason for the regulator to object. And this goes back to the point that Associate Professor Jamus Lim raised earlier. If we want to be a regulator of good standing nationally, then we got to operate in a rules-based system looking at what our requirements are as regulator and apply them consistently and in an even-handed manner. So regardless of who is the entity, we would have to apply those rules based on our considerations as a prudential regulator. So this is what happened. Now, I also explained earlier in my response to Ms. Pereira that after the 6th of August Parliament sitting, the team from MAS that was looking at this proposal then recognized that there is a larger consideration beyond just prudential considerations alone. And then they then passed this information to MCCY, the information about the proposed capital reduction. MAS was the one who provided this information to MCCY and say, I think this is something you need to take a look at and whether this will fit with the terms of what the earlier exemption that MCCY provided. And then by working together, MAS, MCCY, in a whole government manner, and this is how we will work as a government. We will work across different ministries, across different departments, for the benefit of Singapore and Singaporeans. Yes, initially there was an information gap, as I explained. But once we share the information, we work closely together, we work in a coordinated manner, and this is why we are bringing this bill to Parliament for consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Leong, you make reference to the sitting in August and also some public views on the transaction. I wasn't here in August, but I've since read the transcripts and understand what you said. There were a number of views that were put out, like this transaction should not go on because the shares were supposed to be not redeemable, or that it cannot be sold. None of these apply in this case. And I think you heard me explain earlier the background to why and how I answered Leader of Opposition's quick query. And the point really is, it is in the interest of income in 2022 to have corporatized. I explained that. And for it to use this corporate vehicle to look at possibilities for partnerships, which it is now done, and they found Allianz in this case. As I said, the objections is not to Allianz as an entity or to the financial suitability of its plans per se, but rather the questions that we have decided, which follow after we reviewed the information, as you heard Minister Chee say earlier. So I would add to that by saying that's exactly how, when you mentioned goalkeeper, this works. MAS would not share all and sundry information. You can't expect that every time information about a potential application or an acquisition or a deal is proposed to be made and information given to MAS that it is shared with all and sundry. That's not how MAS works. But in this case, after it realized that there are various issues which MCCY might be concerned about, it then shared the relevant information with us. And collectively, we looked at it and came to a view as a government on what would serve the public interest. And in this case, we decided that it would not serve the public interest to allow this to proceed. That's how we would work, to answer your point about having a goalkeeper.